My name is Gary Kelly. I am a retired CPA. I began photography in the Army in 1958. In 1961, I spent a year as a full-time professional portrait photographer for a small studio in downtown Dallas. After retiring from banking, I became more active in photography, traveling and photographing in the United States, Alaska, Hawaii, Ireland, Italy, France, Holland, Belgium, and Costa Rica. My extensive portfolio includes nature, travel, still life, and candid portraits. I've been an active member of the Dallas Camera Club for a number of years. My photographic philosophy is that photography in club competition is an art, not a science. A camera and software is like paint brushes and canvas to an artist. Here are the entry-level pictures. The first picture is All Smiles. This is a somewhat original photograph of a mural. The image lacks impact, the color is flat, and the composition is bland. It's generally not a good idea to photograph other people's art and use them in competitions. However, if you can take a piece of artwork and turn it into your own, it can work. In this case, I would recommend cropping down and showing just the lips. 7 points. Springtime in the Park. A very appealing, nostalgic image. Highlights in the hair and the trees are nice. The subject is too centered. I would recommend cropping in from the left. The foreground is too bright. I would lower the tone of the grass and the saturation. 9 points. Just a Drink. Very nice capture. Squirrels can be a bit hackneyed, but this one is well done. The subject and background need more differentiation. The composition could be improved by cropping from the right and the bottom. 9 points. Icelandic Waterfall. What a beautiful place. Well executed, except the color scale is weighted very badly toward the yellow. Also, the rock in the foreground is too centered. You may need to check the color calibration on your monitor. This is very easily corrected. 10 points. Olympic Park. A nice scene at a great locale. Well executed. To improve the image, the beach is too flat, so crop it out. Darken the sky. Crop in a bit from the left to make a stronger focal point. 10 points. Monument Valley. Beautiful scene, nice composition, shot at a great time of day. The sky seems a bit oversaturated. I would like to see a little bit more punch in the foreground. Honorable mention and 11 points for Nok Wong. At an Endless Window. Nice composition, good emotional impact. The image overall needs straightening. A lower angle might make it even more dramatic also. I would crop a bit from the right side. The left side of the image is a bit blown out. I would pull that brightness down in that area. Third place and 11 points for Anna Feingold. Beautiful Bee. A striking scene with gorgeous color, very sharply focused and focused in the right places. I know you can't redo it, but I'd prefer to see the bee's face. Second place and 12 points for Loretta Griffin. Calm After the Storm. To me, this is a very high impact and emotional image, very artistically rendered. The off-color and the composition adds to the emotional impact. I might try cropping some from the left just to see what happens. But anyway, very nicely done. 13 points and first place for Todd Matthews. These are the intermediate images. First is Sweet Dreams. Pleasing photo of a sleeping cat. The image could use a bigger depth of field, and the marble column corner has lapped over the cat's whiskers. Might be a good time to wait for a better pose. 9 points. Watching for a catch. Good capture at the right time of day. The web is nicely highlighted. Overall, the image is a bit flat. More contrast could be used. Clarity might improve the image also. The web does not seem to be quite sharp. Also, it is not appropriate to put a copyright name on competition images. 10 points. Deadwood. A good find. An interesting pattern. The swirling composition might be better with less cropping on the top and the right. Tried adjusting the tone and the contrast to bring out the patterns. Also, the image seems a bit soft in places. 10 points. Bluebonnet Heaven. Beautiful flowers. A beautiful overall subject with great color and tones. The image seems pretty badly over-sharpened. The subject is too centered. I would crop from the right side and the foreground to place the focal point in a better spot. 10 points. Iris at the end of day. Lots of interesting details in this image. Some of the areas on the petals are too bright. The composition doesn't seem to work very well. I would crop from the right side and the foreground to improve the composition. 10 points. Condemned Pier. Excellent tonal range and an interesting topic, but the composition doesn't work very well. The image needs a different viewpoint, maybe a lower angle, maybe a little more wide angle, or a little bit more from the side would bring out the overall leading lines and the topic better. 11 points. Scratching the Clouds. Appealing panorama, good exposure of the sky and the foreground. Use a dehaze slider to pull out the details on the right side of the mountains. The composition lacks a good focal point. 11 points. Apothecary. A wonderful exposure of an interesting subject. Fascinating objects. The color is perfect. The composition is very cluttered and needs to be simplified. 11 points. Nashville Musician. An engaging topic with great black and white tones. The subject seems disengaged, and I think we would like to see more of the eyes. 11 points. The Morning Clearing. Nice sharp close-up image, well executed. The rope is somewhat distracting. The background is good. 12 points. The Lounge Singer. Clever title, immaculately executed with a great background. Composition could be bettered by cropping down from the top and cropping over from the left to eliminate the somewhat distracting and overexposed leaf. Might rotate the image a little bit clockwise for a little bit more impact. Honorable mention and 13 points for Paul Gray. Waiting for Rain, one of those stunning white sands scenes, ripples and all. The composition is textbook. There is a blown out spot on the upper left in the dunes that could be pulled down. I think this photo would also be improved by pulling down the blue saturation in the ripple shadows and in the dark areas of the clouds. Honorable mention and 12 points for Alan Daniel. Cathedral of Learning. Soaring scene with great impact. Nice range of tonality. Would it help to straighten it out? Maybe yes, maybe no. Honorable mention, 3rd place for Richard Otto, 13 points. Bird of Paradise. Beautiful color and excellent composition. Could have used possibly a little bit larger depth of field. 2nd place and 13 points for Earl Snoga. After the I-dos, beautifully executed nostalgic image. The tonality is exquisite with just the right amount of detail on display. One quibble: while the sandals add to the composition, it is a bit difficult to tell exactly what they are at first. First place and 14 points for Mary Jean Blevins. And now for the advanced category. The first image is Colombian toucans. Beautiful birds, but the field flash is much too strong. It flattens out the light and makes a very bland visual effect. Composition is too cluttered. 8 points. Yucca, a really pretty flower and very rich color. The stalk slicing through the middle of the picture is very distracting. Try cropping from the left and the bottom to try to isolate the flower. 10 points. Walton Lighthouse at dawn, Santa Cruz, California. A most interesting locale and a great time of day. The sky is kind of blah, and the composition needs work. Maybe crop out the rocks in the foreground. Is the focal point the man in the boat or the lighthouse? Needs clarity. 10 points. Guanaco Crossing. Beautiful exposure and great color and nice soft light. The composition doesn't work. The human figures on the left are a distraction, and one of the broken limbs seems to be gouging the animal. 10 points. Flower drum dance at the Plano Asia Fest. Very exotic image, beautiful color. The vignetting and composition work well. Unfortunately, the dancer's hand covering her face is a major mistake. 12 points. Foggy morning. Lots of good things here. The trees and the mist and the soft light on the foreground are very nice. The framing effect is a bit overpowering, and the composition needs a stronger focal point. 12 points. Killdeer in flight. Tremendously detailed picture of a seabird in flight. Beautiful tones and color. The composition is too centered. Honorable mention and 12 points for Walter Brock. Standing tall. A great capture. The impact of the backlight highlights is terrific, and the meerkat's facial expression is great. The composition could use a little bit more room at the top. Third place and 13 points for Lin Fin Wang. Cedar Cemetery. This image illustrates the idea of photography as an art form. The use of the high-key exposure and the slightly sepia color brings out the dreamlike qualities of the image. I'm not sure where the title comes from. There are no cedars. 14 points and second place for Randall Dunn. Sunset in a sunflower field. Beautiful high impact image. I love the backlight effect on the petals. The bright sun pulls your eye right into the image. Great work. Beautiful depth of field. 14 points and first place for Wen-Chi Lee. Master category. Buck Canyon, Canyonlands National Park. A spectacular setting, but the tonality is flat. The color looks too purple. There seems to be pixel noise in the sky, and the center of interest is not well defined. 8 points. Sunset Point. A beautiful, interesting locale, soft evening light. The image needs a little bit more punch and a stronger center of interest. 9 points. Red. Beautiful flower, good color composition. Seems oversaturated in both red and green, and there are overblown highlights on the petals. 10 points. Arenal Volcano. Beautiful and exotic scenic. Lots of visual appeal. The foreground is clipped. and doesn't jibe well with the rest of the image. A little application of the dehaze slider would bring out more detail in the volcano. 10 points. Blue Dasher Dragonfly, posing. Very interesting, colorful insect. The head and tail are not in sharp focus, and the composition is overbalanced to the right. 11 points. West Texas Windmill. Evocative and nostalgic scene in moody light. I keep wanting to alter the composition, but I'm not sure if cropping from the right or the left would improve it. In any case, I like the mood very much. 12 points. Rising Milky Way at the Fins in Arches National Park. Beautiful night shot, a great composition, but there's way too much pixel noise throughout the image. There are little white spots on the rocks, and the Milky Way could stand to have a bit more clarity. Still, it's a beautiful composition. 12 points. Maryland, F-84 Thunderjet Evergreen Aviation Museum. Nicely focused, very sharp, high impact of an airplane juxtaposed with an American flag. However, those two elements seem to compete visually with each other, and the overall image seems too centered. I think the flag could be pulled down closer to the airplane and improve the image tremendously. 12 points. Inconclusive. Very creative image with lots of impact. The color composition is great, and the compositional form is different but works. The graffiti in the center adds an element of mystery to the composition. 13 points. Silos at Sunset. A mundane subject, but well composed with beautiful evening light. The maker might try to burn in the sky a little bit more. 13 points. Great Sand Dunes. Great Sand Dunes is a favorite spot for me. I love to shoot around there. This is a seriously good rendition. Beautiful lines, shapes, and tonality. The foreground tree seems to be a bit too prominent and maybe could benefit from either being eliminated or moved to the left or right. 13 points. Fishing above the falls. A really nice, pleasant, satisfying scene. Gorgeous detail, color, and tonality. The fishermen in the corner add a vaguely kind of National Geographic feeling. Honorable mention and 13 points for Dennis Fritchie. Reflections on Veil. This is a terrific sort of geometric composition with all sorts of interesting objects throughout the image. The trace of snow is delightful. My only quibble is that the sky and water seem a tad blown out. Great composition. Honorable mention and 13 points to Danette Volkmer. Eileen Doran Castle. Great wide-angle shot that creates leading lines to bring our eyes right into the subject. The low angle provides a different perspective. The big rock on the right balances the composition. Very nice tones and really nice moody work. Third place and 13 points to Linda Grigsby. Tom. Really well executed portrait. Perfect skin tones. The image seems to bring out a lot of character and personality in the subject. I like the way the black shirt blends into the background. The subject seems a bit too close to the top, and the catchlight looks a little bit synthetic. 14 points and second place to John Lehman. Mr. Peacock. Okay, this is how you take a kind of overdone subject and turn it into something really fresh and interesting. Incredible color and patterns, beautifully composed, and absolutely unbelievable detail. 15 points in first place for Larry Petterborg. Best of Show. I was very torn between the wedding dress, the sunflowers, and Mr. Peacock. But in the end, I felt that Mr. Peacock had a slightly higher impact. So therefore, Best of Show goes to Mr. Peacock by Larry Petterborg. Thank you for inviting me to judge. It is always a pleasure to look at your marvelous images, and I hope I was not too harsh, and I hope I was able to encourage you to go on and do even better than you do today, which would be completely amazing. Thanks again. Good night.